Hi. Welcome to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Mayer, and this show's for you if you're done with cookie cutter marketing and ready to build your personal brand in alignment with who you really are. Let's dive in. Hello, my incredible friends. Before I dive into today's episode, I would like to give a special shout out to Saint Augustine Fan, who is in the USA, who left this beautiful review for us. She says, love the energy of this podcast. Yvette's openness and choice of topics makes this a wonderful resource for anyone interested in learning about human design and marketing. I want to give you a huge shout out and say a big thank you. This is actually the first review since we relaunched the podcast, and this is the 10th. Oh my god, it's auspicious. This is the 10th episode in season 3, which is when we reset the podcast to human design for marketing. Now, of course, if you're listening to this, I would absolutely love it if you would take this as a sign from the universe that right now is a really good time to pause this episode and go and leave us a review. When you do that, it absolutely helps for other listeners to discover us. And I will also give you a very warm hello, shout out, leave me your actual name, and I'll pop into your Instagram or Facebook and say hello as well. All right, let's move into today's episode, and we're going to be talking about something that I 1000% know is of interest to you, because I have spent many years now as a business coach, coming up to 4 or 5, somewhere around there, and I'm very aware that in every stage of our business, particularly when we're just getting started, the biggest pressure we feel is financial viability, right? We're all in the energy of, I need to make this work. It has to be profitable. I can't fail. I'm not going back, etc., etc., etc. And I've certainly had this experience myself. So when it comes to topics of interest, that means that anything I can bring to you that is going to help you make more sales, and that means attracting more money into your business so you can feel grounded and confident and expansive in your scaling strategy, is going to benefit you. And I love to talk about money, because I believe that when you put money in the hands of the right people, and I'm looking at you ladies, heart-centered women who want to make a positive impact in the world, who are open and channels to bringing through the kind of influence and impact that lights people up, that gives them more purpose, helps them be more healthy, and so on. The more we can get money in your hands, the better we are going to survive and thrive as a planet. And there is so much challenge out there. We need money in your hands. And working with human design, I have come to experience and also delve into line 1 over here, lots of different aspects that go beyond even the shallow, although we're going to go into those parts as well, around how can you leverage your human design, or how can you better embody aspects of your human design. And I am talking about how can you attract the exact right opportunities towards you in your business, in particular clients, customers, and sales, so that you do have this beautiful channel and flow of prosperity coming your way. And yes, there absolutely are parts of the human design body graph chart for you to experiment with, as well as other opportunities around sales and money. And I am going to bring you 5 specific areas of human design. Actually, one of them's within the gene keys, and I'll do this one by one. FYI, I have also created a series of these 5 over on the TikToks. So if you want to watch me share in a different format, sharper, shorter bursts, just, because repetition is the master of learning. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to go in and repeat, integrate, learn more. So go do that as well. Now, let's dive into this topic. So the 5 areas we're going to talk about today. Number 1 are your profile lines. Number 2 is your open or undefined centers. Number 3 is the centers that are most open from a population point of view, because every center has a different level of penetration, shall we say, in the humans of the world. Then we're going to talk about type, strategy, and authority. That is the more shallow end of the human design pool. And then we're going to wrap up with a conversation about the gene keys. And it's about the prosperity sequence, which I did talk to you about a couple of episodes ago, but worth bringing up again here. I'm excited to help you open up more prosperity for yourself and abundance for your business. So number 1 is your profile lines. Now, if you've been around here for a while, you probably know that I consider the profile lines to be one of, if not the most important element of human design when it comes to marketing. And that really stems from how I've experienced the wisdom in my profile lines and the giant transformations that my clients have experienced as well. It often is the one thing that brings the biggest aha and change in marketing strategy that then results in more flow, more ease, more clients, more money. So the profile lines are, of course, you have 2, and so it's a couple. I am a 5-1. If you're unsure of your profile lines, make sure you pull down your chart and reference that for this chat, because there definitely is something for you in here. So I want you to know what those profile lines are for you. So there are only 6 profile lines, but we all have this duo, this companion of lines. So we all have 2 lines. Now, the first line that we have is our more conscious line, and the second is more subconscious. So when you investigate, experiment with your profile lines, you're probably going to find more resonance in the first line. Now, Ra describes the profile lines as the costume of our purpose. So I interpret that as how others receive us. How do others receive our energy? And I'm talking about, yes, the brand that we show up in, the clothes that we're wearing, the energy of our communication, and the platforms that we place ourselves in to have those conversations. All of these things are kind of the external part of how we project our energy out into the world. Now, absolutely, that is going to have a huge influence on our ideal clients of the future, how they receive us, okay? And these profile lines have very distinct energetic frequencies around the influence factor. And in fact, in the way that I teach human design for marketing, I call the profile lines the influence activation area of the chart. So if you want to have more influence, this is how you activate that using human design intelligence. Now, I'm quickly going to run you through the 6 lines just to give you a feel for how different they are. So as a line 1, and it doesn't matter if you have the 1 first or second, and that's the same for all of these lines. You're going to have a mix of both of your profile lines in terms of how you are best designed for influence. So the number 1 is the human who loves to have all of the information, goes deep diving into research, facts. In fact, as a 1, doesn't feel particularly safe without learning from somebody that is a master of their craft, whether that's in books or courses or live, whatever that looks like. Now, the thing about being a line 1 is because of this passion for having all of that foundational knowledge to feel safe is what is behind this. They, or we, because I do have a 1, become an authority in that process. And this authoritative tone of voice and way of expressing self is very powerful in a marketing context. The line 2 in traditional human design is known as the hermit. Now, it's not the most marketing friendly line because as a 2, you're somebody that has natural gifts and talents that perhaps you can't quite explain how you do the thing. So it's more difficult to teach it. You're also going to find that you love spending time in your own bubble of gifts, whether that means literally in a room on your own, working alone, or if it's just in your own process. You do have this element to you where you kind of want to hide away and let the magic come through you. And it's your other line that's going to pull that out into the world. So when you think about your influence as a line 2, it's more about internal permission to trust your gifts and to create safe spaces where you do want to share those gifts with others. And from a marketing perspective, potentially to talk about outcomes more than about process. The line 3, known as the martyr, this line is really the learn by experience line. It is the make lots of mistakes, fall over, get scabs on your knees and keep going because you know every time you pick up yourself back up again, you've learned something new and you're ready to take that out into the world. Now, the martyr comes from making the mistakes and feeling grumpy, but in my experience, line 3s are more on the end of the scale of, we've got this. I know I failed, but you don't learn without failing. Let's keep moving. This is super magnetic in marketing and gives you a lot of stories to tell. So I always say to my line 3 clients, more storytelling, more sharing of what doesn't work. Okay. The line 4, very distinct energy in the line 4. This is your very friendly opportunist human. The word opportunist really refers to you at a deep level appreciating that the more people you build connection with, the greater your influence. So yes, there's an element of opportunity in there that is potentially not your conscious motivator. But also because you do like this connecting people, collaborating, bouncing ideas off others makes you an incredible networker. And the line 4 tends to be somebody that doesn't love growing their business through, for instance, social media marketing, because they're much more interested in building deep connections and they know that their energy works from the ground up. So you're better off to build more of your networks, join more groups, be in more communities, sharing your magic and trusting that through that, you're going to grow your business. The line 5, now anything above a 4 is very external for the others kind of energy. So the 4 being this more social type. The 5 is driven by finding solutions, always on the lookout for what are the problems that I can help solve? How can I help people? What can I do? You know, they're constantly projected onto as well because they have this kind of fix-it solution energy and quite often end up in leadership positions. Now, as a line 5, if you are one, you are less likely to want to network. I'm a line 5. I'm a 5-1. I am not good. I'm not good at it. It's not something that I enjoy, small talk or building community first before marketing. I am more of a broadcaster, and that is absolutely aligned to my line 5 energy. We kind of come in, we look for the solutions, we help people, and then we keep moving. People kind of move on from us once they've got the solution to the challenge or the problem that they have in that moment. Then we have the line 6. The line 6 is kind of the top line. It is somebody that kind of starts their life off as a 3, going through all of these experiences, learning through doing, only really being confident selling if they've got the personal experience themselves, at least in the industries of things like coaching, healing, consulting. And they also go through a process in their lives where they go from being kind of internally focused and learning the lessons through their own trial and error, over time maturing into witnessing how others learn through doing, and ultimately ending up as a highly respected role model, a go-to expert, somebody that constantly has others asking if they can pick their brains, because they give off this energy of grounded knowing, and they make incredible teachers. So this kind of human is going to be also someone that tells a lot of stories, but picks their moment, more potency, more slowing down to really clarify the wisdom that they've learnt through their life. So that's the profile lines. Hot off the press, I am going to be bringing back my influence activation free training live again soon. And in fact, next week, I'm going to run a whole episode on the profile lines to announce the new masterclass that's coming. Amazing. Okay, so when you're operating in alignment with your profile lines, you will find that you do get more opportunities. And yes, that means you attract sales way more easily, as well as other things that maybe take longer. Speaking opportunities, podcasting opportunities, all sorts of collaborations, things like that may start to happen for you that longer term will absolutely lead to growing your sales potential. That is, as I said, where I will always start, and that will be the deepest dive I do of the 5. Okay. Number 2 that I want to talk to you about is your open centers. Now, I have done, showing my line 1 here, I've done a lot of research into what Ra Uru Hu transmitted into the world around money and sales. And there's a resource called the 64 Material Ways, which, by the way, my apologies, I said that was a Gene Keys book on the last episode, and that was a mistake. There is another Gene Keys book beyond the one that I talked about, referenced first, but the 64 Material Ways is actually a course that Ra Uru Hu taught live, and it was recorded and has been turned into a nearly 200-page book, which I have spent a lot of time with. And the first element that he talks to around sales, by the way, he doesn't like teaching it because it's about selling to our out of alignment, not self characteristics, because people buy where they have pain or a gap. And this speaks to where we are open. Yeah. So he felt really uncomfortable teaching this stuff because he's like, I feel like I'm teaching people to like focus on their not self. But anyway, let's get into it because it's really fascinating stuff. So when you look at your chart and you understand where your open centers are, this can give you an understanding of where you're most receptive to magnetize from. Your open centers are where we sell from, in Ra's words. So you want to really understand the not self of your open centers and learn to appreciate that you will have gone on a journey in these parts of you, and therefore be able to relate to others that are feeling the need for help. Now, I've spoken to this a little bit because I came up with an example which is really helpful in how I express this to get this through for you, which is, if you have a defined spleen, you are somebody that is gifted in the area of a sense of survival, a desire for safety, well-being, and a strong level of intuition. These are all very true of the spleen. If your spleen is defined, it wouldn't be surprising if you found yourself in some form of healing type role. And in fact, every chart that I've done for somebody that is like a psychic or an energy healer has had the spleen defined. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do this type of work without splenic definition, and that's not what we're here to discuss anyway. But I want to make the point that you're defined there, and that may be what you do for work, but it's not how you sell it, okay? So you want to look at where you're open and sell from where you're open. So the example I use is, if you have an open heart center, by the way, the heart center is often referred to as the will center, W-I-L-L, or even the ego center. If this is open for you, and it's open for 70% of the population, a high percentage, then you are more likely to be in and out of feeling worthy, and also potentially have a tendency to try and prove yourself when you're out of alignment. Okay, so you have learnt in your lifetime the need to do work on this area of yourself, and that it is a thing that comes up for you. So this is where you sell your healing services from. If you're splenic defined and that's your business, you would be marketing to this open center potentially with messaging around, you are worthy of prioritizing your health. You are worthy of getting into the best shape of your life, no matter what age you are. You can stop trying to prove yourself and do the work to fill yourself up from the inside out. Okay, these are examples of messaging or sales messaging that are coming from the open space, but selling from the defined. Okay, so I hope that I've made that distinction for you. Now, the third element that we're diving into is related. It is considering where the larger population has open centers, knowing that there are higher proportions of not selves, out of alignments, in the centers with the lowest amount of definition, because then there's a much higher percentage of not defined. In the book I referenced, the 64 Material Ways, it's not actually a real book, it's a printout, by the way. The Ra, when he's doing this course, presents it as the profit centers. So the higher the percentage of not self or not defined, the more profitable the center is. Like, that's how much he's playing into this, okay? So the two most profitable centers of the entire body chart, or body graph, I should say, are the head center, which is only defined for 30% of the population, and the heart, will, ego center, which is similar. And it's interesting, I've noticed lately that there are different bodies of work that are saying different numbers for these, but just say it's around 70 to 80 for either of those. So a huge majority of the population are going to relate to what it feels like to be out of alignment and in the not self in these areas, okay? So I already gave you an example of the heart center and how we can sell from the heart center, which is around proving energy and low self-worth, all right? So the head center, on the other hand, is much more about thinking about things that don't matter. So not clinging on to your critical thinking skills or not having enough insight, information flowing so that you feel, or not feel, but there's just not the flow of information that you would like consistently. That's the not self, right? So I relate to this, as I've shared on this podcast. I'm a very open human. I'm open in both of these places. And so I can absolutely get lost in my head about God only knows what. Here's a great example. See something that triggers me on social media, go down a rabbit hole, which only serves to make me feel like shit, when actually I could be being really productive doing something that adds value to my life or to my business, right? So what do we sell from this place? We sell clarity. We can sell certainty. We can sell inspiration, right? So again, this is a center that, I will preface it, if it is open for you, is a great center for you to focus your marketing messaging from. Again, you will have the receptors by being open, but also you know that this type of messaging is going to resonate with a much higher percentage of the population. Now, we're not here all things to everyone, and we can certainly take advantage of our open centers regardless of the proportion of the population that has that undefined or not self potential. Sal Dana, who was on the podcast with me just a few weeks ago, we were talking about this, and I shared with her that she has an open throat center. When you're out of alignment in the open throat center, you struggle or you work hard to get attention. You don't have the consistency of communication. You don't feel like people are listening to you and you want to be heard. Okay. Now, she sells this. She's a visibility coach. She sells how to get yourself online, be visible, show up, and make an impact. But the truth is, she's open in this area, and she does relate to the fact that she's had to work really hard to kind of master this energy for herself to a point where she teaches others how to do this. So she is somebody who is teaching from somewhere where she's open, and so she can also message from that. So she does this beautifully, and she has incredible success because she is talking from lived experience, both from her own openness and the fact that she has the receptors in this center. She really cuts through and magnetizes her ideal clients. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the obvious, but we need to say it. It is selling from being in alignment, which means really understanding and embodying your type, and especially following the strategy of your type, as well as your authority. Now, these are the 3, it's kind of 2 areas of your chart that you must get to know intimately, integrate, experiment with, and embody. When you do, it's all about cutting down the friction in your life. It's all about smoothing out the path, creating the path of least resistance, being more opportunity coming your way. This is absolutely valuable when it comes to selling. And I couldn't do this episode without talking about this simple truth that the more in alignment you are with your type, strategy, and authority, the greater potential you're going to have to expand into all that you desire. And therefore, no matter what stage of your human design journey you're at, it's important to remind you that this is the hygiene. This is the most important aspect, and it is a huge influencing factor into attracting sales and money into your business. That was number 4. Now we're going to finish up with number 5, as I said, this is not human design per se, but it is the spin-off of the Gene Keys. I talked about this a few weeks ago after going on retreat with my client, Trisha, and taking her through what is known as the prosperity sequence of the Gene Keys. Gene Keys, spin-off tool by Richard Rudd. It is this beautiful I Ching focused body of work that goes deep into the 64 gates, but in the Gene Keys, they're referred to as the 64 Gene Keys. Richard has also created one pathway to take you through key elements of your own Gene Keys in a sequence to unlock different parts of you. The first one is the activation sequence, which is the same 4 gates as the incarnation cross in human design. It's the sun and the earth placement on both sides of your body chart. That's the activation sequence. Then there is the Venus sequence or the love sequence, which is more about relationships. And then the third sequence is the Pearl sequence, or also known as the prosperity sequence. This is the money one. This is the sales one. It is freaking magical. I have had so much joy exploring it. If you want to learn more about the Gene Keys, go back to the Jess Bubico podcast episode where we talked about my experience in her program. Look, it gets into things like your ideal vocation, the size of the team that will work best for you, and your energy, personal brand coming through from your sun personality, which is true of human design as well, and then actually into your Pearl, which is the one area that is going to help you open up to more prosperity. So I love the Gene Keys and this sequence. I will say this, if you jump onto the Gene Keys website and you purchase it as a course, which I've done with 2 out of the 3 sequences so far, it feels a lot harder to go through and integrate and do the work than if you join somebody else's program like Jess. When I joined her program and we did it in a group, and so I felt way more accountable and like I was making beautiful progress more effortlessly, so to speak. But the upshot is, the big takeaway from me was that I had this self-reliance in my business when I am actually designed, in at least in the way human design and the Gene Keys show me, to work really well in partnership. This was huge for me, and it has led to me making some, I was going to say huge again, but significant decisions in my business that have already opened up more money, more revenue streams. It's magic, and I'm really freaking enjoying it as well. So that's the 5. We went through the profile lines, your open centers, the open centers of the population, the type, strategy, authority, and finally the Gene Keys prosperity sequence. Now, I know this is a lot. As I said, you can go and watch my TikToks. I will continue to dive into topics like this, and also in my own human design experiment, bring you examples of the changes being made in my business or my clients' businesses that give you tangible examples of this. But I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Please, anytime, go leave me or send me an Instagram message. Yvette Mayer _ is my Instagram bio. Pop in and leave me a review. As I said, I would very much appreciate that. Or get on my email list. Do the quiz that's in the show notes, and you'll find your way there, or download your human design chart on my website and you'll end up in my inbox. Any and all of these things are wonderful. Thanks for listening again, and I can't wait to be back again with you soon. Bye for now. There are heaps more resources in the show notes. I can't wait to be back in your ears again soon. Bye for now.